On September the 10th, 2025, as we all know, a conservative by the name of Charlie Kirk was struck down, assassinated in front of his wife and his two kids. What I saw online, I'm sure a lot of y'all saw the same thing, was appalling. There were people cheering, people who was laughing, people who professed to be Christians were in the comments saying, he got what he deserved. Let me tell you something. No man, no woman, no child deserve to have their life taken from them. Nobody. You see, death is final. Death is permanent. There is no rewind. There is no do-over. There is no second chance. And those children, his children had to watch their father die. Think about that for a second. For all of y'all who are parents, for all of y'all who profess to be Christians, think about that image for a second. The last image they will carry of their father is not of life, not of laughter, not of love, but of him bleeding his life out in front of them on the ground. I don't know about y'all, but I would not want my children to have that memory of me. You see, it's one thing to disagree with the man's words, it's one thing to debate, to argue, even protest. But to silence a man with bullets because you hate his opinion, that is not freedom. That is not justice. That is absolute madness. And what it tells me is simple. Freedom of speech in this country is threatened. Maybe it doesn't even exist anymore. You see, I wasn't aware of who Charlie Kirk actually was because I had never followed him. I had never looked at any of his clips. But after his passing, I did go online and search for a lot of his clips to see what the big hoopla was about, to see what he was talking about. Now, I will admit, I didn't agree with all of his views. I probably didn't agree with most of them, to be honest with you. But I do recognize this. He had the right to speak. You had the right to disagree. I have the right to disagree. That is what freedom looks like. But when you kill a man for what he believes, you're not killing him, you're killing liberty itself. A lot of people said that Charlie was full of hate. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. Depends on who you ask. If you were to ask his supporters, they would tell you that he wasn't. If you were to ask his friends, they would probably say that Charlie was a lovable person. If you were to ask his wife, she would probably tell you that he is a or was a lovable husband. If you were to ask his children, they would probably say he was a loving father. If you ask those who did not like him, his enemies, his foes, the ones who did not support him, well, they would probably say he was full of hate. But only God knows. You see, God sees what man cannot. The same God who saw Saul, who was a killer of Christians, and turned him into Paul, a preacher of gospel. Don't get it twisted. We humans, we judge with shallow eyes. God, well, he judged with depth. You see, this country is already drowning in hate. Taking one more life doesn't erase it. Killing one man doesn't cure it. Violence does not remove hate. Violence multiplies hate. You see, on September the 10th, 2025, a bullet traveled for almost 200 or plus 200 yards away, and that bullet tore into Charlie Kirk's neck. It ended his life almost instantly. After his passing, ask yourself, what changed? How did your life change? Did racism vanish? Did injustice disappear? Did poverty crumble? Did the hate in this country disappear? No. Nothing changed. The only thing changed was a family. Someone's family was shattered. I want to take this time out to call out the hypocrisy in some of these Christians. To those ones calling yourselves Christians, I want you to hear me clearly. If you're out here celebrating this man's murder, this man's assassination, you are no different from the hate you condemned in him. You cannot follow Christ with blood on your hands. You cannot call yourself righteous while clapping for death. One of the Ten Commandments clearly states you should not murder. There is no footnote. There is no exception. There is no clause. Hate is hate, whether it wears a suit or a hoodie, whether it speaks from a pulpit or a podium, and you celebrate violence, and you call yourself a Christian. You are a hypocrite. You see, Jesus told everybody to love their neighbor as themselves. Your neighbor does not mean your political tribe. It doesn't mean your denomination or your religion. It doesn't mean your next door neighbor, actually. It doesn't mean your race. It doesn't mean your nationality. It means all people. Charlie Kirk will be remembered. He was loved by many. He was hated by many. Doesn't matter what side of the coin you fall on. Either way, he will be remembered. And hear me well, his assassination will not erase his influence. In fact, it will only amplify it. Assassination does not silence a movement. In fact, a lot of times, assassination sparks a movement. To the killer, Tyler Robinson, someday, unless you get the death penalty, someday, 30 years from now, you're going to wake up in a prison cell and you're going to realize that you gained nothing from this. You will realize that you did all of this for absolutely nothing. The hate you thought you would kill will still be here. The division you thought you ended will still exist. You will see that you threw your life away for absolutely nothing. And to those who celebrate, beware. Because men like Kirk, whether you love him or hate him, men like him has charisma. They have influence. They have followers, especially among the youth. And anytime you remove a figure or a person like that, remember someone else is always waiting. Someone who watched him, studied him, learned from him. One day is going to rise. And when they rise, they will rise with fuel. And you don't know if that fuel will burn for peace or for destruction. I heard someone say that the assassination of Charlie Kirk is a tipping point. I ask, why? Why now? Did you know that this year alone, 46 school shootings have occurred this year. 19 have died. Children murdered in their classroom. Why wouldn't that be the tipping point? It is unfortunate that Charlie Kirk met his demise on September the 10th. But his passing, in my opinion, is not the tipping point. Why do I say that? In my opinion, the tipping point should have been when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. The tipping point should have been when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. The tipping point should have been when President Ronald Reagan was almost assassinated on more than one occasion. The tipping point should have been when the school shooting took place in Columbine and Sandy Hook. The tipping point should have been when a mass shooting took place inside an African American church in Charleston. The tipping point should have been when the Tree of Life synagogue shooting took place. The tipping point should have been when that mass shooting took place inside of a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. The tipping point should have been when 21 kids were unalive during a mass shooting in Uvalde Elementary in Texas. The tipping point should have been when the Catholic Church or school was shot up less than a month ago in Minneapolis. Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis said, "There is no human life more sacred than another." An American philanthropist, I can never say that word right. Melinda Gates said, Melinda Gates said, "All lives have equal value." All lives have equal value. But see, a lot of Americans don't live by those words. A lot of Americans are in love with violence. You see, the truth of the matter is, there is no tipping point. Whether we want to admit it or not, the people in this country love guns. The people in this country love violence. There's violence in our speech. We glorify violence in our movies. We glorify violence in our music. We glorify violence in our video games. We profit from it. We consume it. We call it entertainment. We call it harmless entertainment, harmless fun. And then we act surprised when it spills into our churches, our schools, and our streets. We talk about it, we have dialogue, we debate about it, but nobody is willing to sacrifice for tougher gun laws or restrictions. Violence in music will never go away because it sells. Violence depicted in movies and television shows will never cease because we love the gore of it. We love the excitement. We have become desensitized to violence and death. Until we admit our addiction to blood, until they confess their worship of guns, there will be no tipping point. Only more graves, only more funerals, only more children scared by death instead of life. If the blood of children didn't tip the scales, then why would this moment do it? The truth is ugly, but it's real. We pick and choose who lives matter. We pick and choose whose death we should be more outraged about. But hear me, life is life. No man's death is more sacred than another. All of us must decide life or the grave, love or hate. Because until then, this cycle of violence will never end.